Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one, man, forget my peace. We take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, better tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
God bless football is crushing it. Yesterday, Smirnoff sponsored Stugotz's live Jets Tears. Do you know how rare a commodity that is to get that live and unfiltered? We will talk Jets Dolphins in a second. But I saw something happen yesterday, Stugotz, that I have not seen happen around here. And if you want all of your football information, go to God Bless Football right now. They get out before the rest of us, as does David Sampson on Nothing Personal. They get to the content of the work week faster than we do. But we televised your tears yesterday, and I didn't think during the football Sunday,
right?
And we've talked about this before. What has to happen in sports to make its way into get out of the way Chargers Chiefs, get out of the way Bills Rams? There's something else here. There's a sports news thing that's bigger than football. Such a thing does not exist. What is it? The O.J. Simpson freeway chase? No, there is a thing. Juan Soto gets $750 million, and he's not a superstar celebrity. Like, he's an exceptional baseball player.
He is now.
He's an he is not a star. Like, he's a star baseball player,
You're
but
right.
he is not a star. Like, all of us know here in sports that he is excellent at what he does. But Scott Boras wins again, and David Sampson hates Scott Boras more than he hates anyone publicly or privately that I've heard him talk about. But I don't want him infecting our Football Monday because I got Original Crew in here and Demean. I want to start galloping on football, but Sampson's like, you got to talk Soto. You got to start with Soto. And I'm like, why do I have to start with Soto? A money story? Like, great. Ruin sports again, money guy. A money story. No, you got to start with Soto. You guy who told me that the $100 million contract was going to wreck the sport, now I'm watching the Dodgers got $1 billion deferred, and a guy who's not a star gets $750 million? That was enough to get into football, wasn't it? Like, you were all interested in that the Mets stole him from the Yankees. Why was that so interesting to you guys?
The money.
Yeah, the money.
The money.
Yeah.
Lots of it. So much of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just so much money.
And not deferred.
Yeah.
Not deferred is crazy. He's leaving the Yankees for the Mets. That stuff's interesting too. But yeah, and it's the money.
That's gonna be a bad deal. I don't want to be that guy. That's gonna be a bad deal.
That's going to be the Cabrera deal.
15
right?
years, $765 million. I thought, and I was wrong. Pie on my face. I was wrong. Juan Soto 2 years ago, when he turned down a 15-year, $440 million contract, I said, buddy, you're turning down a guaranteed $440 million. That's insane. You can get injured at any point in time.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Since he turned that money down.
Think about this. Hold on a second, though. This was him with the Nationals, and we're all discovering, holy shit, the Nationals got a right-handed hitter who's Ted Williams, and he's 22 years old. He's going to lead them in all the World Series stats. What's this guy worth?
Well, since he turned down that 15-year, $440 million offer, which, again, at the time I was like, that is crazy, dude. $440 guaranteed million, you take that. If they offer that to you, like, you're set for life, your children's life, your grandchildren's life, like, you're good. Since that, last year, since he was not playing under that 15-year contract, He made $23 million and then $31 million, and now he has signed a 15-year, $765 million
so Boris
deal.
doubles this, okay? So after we all thought he was crazy. We're like, who the bleep is Juan Soto for the Nationals to offer him $400-something million, which is double what Stanton was given by Sampson.
Right.
When we all thought that was an apocalyptic contract.
But Billy is saying, had Soto signed the contract that Billy wanted him to sign,
That I thought was a great deal.
it would have cost him $500 million.
No, over. It would cost him $300 million. Yeah, like it's crazy how much it was. And by the way, like, and here's like, he can't pitch. Like, Shohei Ohtani got paid $700 million because like he can pitch. So like he's basically two
Ohtani
players.
is already value. Ohtani with all the money deferred?
His, by the way, though, is 10 years. Like, this is a 15-year deal. The crazy thing about this is I saw Jeff Passan talking about it. And he's like, yeah, he really believed in the direction of the Mets. Like, really believed in the direction of the Mets? Like, what is this hogwash? Like, what are we even saying right now? Because the Yankees offered him, I think, $5 million less. I think it might have been 1 year more, which a 16-year deal is crazy. Crazy. He'd be playing until he's 42. But still, man, the Mets are going to be paying Juan Soto $51 million when he's 41 years old. Like, this, Stugotz, is so Mets. This deal is so Mets. It's just, we really need to get in the game. We really need to throw all of our money at the star.
If I may,
to an insane level.
If I may, okay, because I know this is making Sampson crazy. Can you guys in the video room show us Sampson's state right now? Because he hates Scott Boras more than he hates anyone in the world. And right now he's hearing our show talk about a story where he has vastly more expertise than us. and he is doing so while locked in a cage with Scott Boras, who's got horns on his head. And what Billy just articulated, Scott Boras just doubled the value of that contract in a few years on Soto. The contract that was going to be $440 million that Soto turned down, Boras almost has doubled that in a few years.
I'm certain the Mets are thinking, though, we'll get to David in a second, I think, but I'm certain the Mets are thinking, hey, we'll take the next 10 years. I'll pay up from ages 36 to 42, but we'll get the next 10 years of Soto in his prime.
So this was just texted.
And it's not my money, so what do I care?
This was just texted to me, and it was pointed out by yesterday someone on social media. The Mets just signed a 37-year-old Juan Soto to a 4-year, $200 million deal. That's what they did yesterday. There's no way that David Sands, we haven't heard from him yet, there's no way that he likes this deal when he thought that the Ichiro deal was going to be the end
I want to
of
get
baseball.
to his thoughts, and we will get to his thoughts in a second, but I can't believe that there's a story, and it's money that knocks football to the side. And let's get to some of this sound, because one of the great joys in here is I'm sure Yankee fans will be totally reasonable about this. I'm sure Yankee fans coming off a World Series when they're like, hey, Steinbrenner family, you know what we do when the Dodgers outmoney them? We outmoney them.
Right.
Like throughout the history of what this family is, when the Yankees lose to the Dodgers, Steinbrenner buys more people.
I mean, George Steinbrenner is rolling over in his grave right now. He is.
Well,
we'll get to David in a second, but I wanted to ask you, Dan, and you, Billy. I think I've heard, and again, guy casually following baseball from afar. I've heard, man, that's a terrible contract. I think 3 times recently. Bryce Harper and Garrett Cole and Shohei Ohtani, just because we'd never seen something so enormous. Aren't all those guys delivering on that? Aren't they kind of, with their performances, proving that those weren't bad deals?
Counterpoint. None of them side with the Mets.
Well, Sampson is, corporate shill and likes to protect management against giving away its money. And he has been telling us, as baseball owners have for a long time, that baseball can't keep affording this while the Dodgers defer $1 billion in payments. And what's really winning at baseball is having the best regional TV contract. Like the sport has gotten, it's gotten that clean where the advantage the Dodgers have that the Mets will not have with Soto is the Dodgers right now are making money on deferred Ohtani money. They're doing it in Japan as well. They're doing it internationally, the amount of money they're making all over the place. Soto's just going to be, Stugotz, he's going to be a New York baseball player.
Right.
He's going to be, if not in the shadow of Judge, he won't be allowed to be the same star that Judge is.
Probably not, right, because he's not playing for the Yankees. Mookie Betts at $365 million seems like a bargain. mean, that is amazing. These numbers are ridiculous.
Well, this is why they're not ridiculous, okay? Stugotz, this part, I would ask you to listen to the sporting class where John Skipper and David Sampson with Pablo Torre really break down some of the numbers in sports in ways that can't be argued. That we find ourselves with this kind of money being thrown around. It has to make David Sampson crazy as someone who has tried to keep costs down in this sport and just sees that Scott Boras, the man he hates more than any other, just doubled Soto's price tag because all you got to do is make the Yankees and Mets both want the same thing. Then everyone in the sport will turn into an idiot. And wouldn't you love to have that as the way that football does business? How basketball does business, where the rich guys could actually just buy what these regional TV contracts are. Do you realize the baseball union, the greatest genius of all, was that they never allowed for a salary cap. So these owners would always have to do this so that David Sampson couldn't hide in the shadow with his extra hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and would have to share it with the players because Ohtani's a bargain. Ohtani's cheap now. He's already cheap.
But he's also not Juan Soto, right? Like I do wonder, Juan Soto bringing $51 million of value to the Mets? Like, are there people going to the Mets game because of Juan Soto who weren't going to the Mets games before?
I mean, if the team's better, it stands to reason more people would go,
Not
right?
$51 million a year more.
Yeah, I'm curious, David's thoughts, and we'll get to him in a second, but I don't think that this is all about making business sense. You have an owner that is a huge fan of his franchise,
right?
And I think he understands that this isn't the best business. It'd be great to actually hear from David on this, but I'm curious your thoughts on this first, Dan, because you do follow baseball. Like, what do we do with the recent examples of everybody complaining about these contracts, but the guys deliver?
I love that everyone in the American economy is seeing what these players are actually worth when you get these CEOs bidding over them. Because when you don't have a salary cap, everyone goes crazy. The Yankees and the Mets go crazy, and this is why, Stugotz. I want to play some of this sound, just some of it, okay?
Right.
There is, we've got 2 bits of sound here from just random Yankee fans, all right? So this is Nick Turturro. I don't know what's...
That's John's brother.
I don't mean to mock him. The longest yard is what I remember him from, the second longest yard.
He was also like a sideline reporter at one WrestleMania, or at least a SummerSlam.
NYPD Blue.
Okay, so I'm not mocking his credentials, but
John's brother.
He is known as John's brother. He gets stuck with that. He is a Yankee fan, and he's unhinged.
Hey, Juan Soto, I got 2 words for you. F you. That's right. F you and the horse you rode in on, and the cavalry behind you. That's right, motherfucker. Yeah, I'm taking it personal. We gave you our love. We gave you our heart and soul. It wasn't enough. You turned your cap around after the World Series. I saw that move. 700 million, 730. Yeah, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Guaranteed years, it wasn't enough. You don't even choose the Dodgers. You don't even choose the Dodgers. You go off Broadway to the Mets. You don't want to be on Broadway, and you don't want to be Judge's guy. You don't want to be Judge's partner. Oh, that's right, Judge. Now it's your team. That's it. Let's stick it up his ass. That's right. Let's go out. Let's get Burns, Fried, Bregman. Let's Teoscar. I don't give a No! We're not around. Take those grungy, whatever those. Oh, those stupid men.
That is the best acting he's ever done, and he's not acting.
No doubt.
He's not acting.
That's the best thing that he's done, and we'll get David's thoughts on that in a second, but that's the best thing that he's done since guest ring announcing the main event at WrestleMania 11, Shawn Michaels versus Diesel. I am finding it really funny that Yankee fans are all of a sudden like super pissed off that there's another team that's just buying all the best players. Like they can't comprehend. Like that used to be them, and they hate it.
No, but it's
the problem is it's the Mets. Like
that's right.
Turturro
They
said,
get
he
the
would have been fine
Dodgers,
with him
too.
going to the Dodgers.
Mike,
They're not fine with losing out on this.
They're not fine with losing out on anybody, but they hate losing to that team more. Look,
yes.
They are the gutter. They are the second team in that town. The Yankees have always owned that town. The Mets have always been trying to steal that town from the Yankees. The Mets don't get the players the Yankees want throughout history. Not any Steinbrenner clan allows that.
But the Mets finally have an owner who's willing to spend that kind of money because he has the money. He doesn't care if he loses money.
He's a lunatic. Yeah. He hates David Sampson. David Sampson hates him as well. So we'll get to David Sampson's thoughts on this in a second because they're strong stronger than anyone in the industry, Stugotz, because he's really got some expertise here as someone who hates Scott Boras, and he hates Scott Boras, and someone who hates Stevie Cohen, I think.
And someone who was a former president of a major league team. I mean,
and likes to tell us at every turn these salaries are out of control, even though we never give them, and then gives one to Stanton, and now Stanton's like the 6th highest paid Yankee. It's the whole thing's asinine, the way that these guys at the top of this business just play with these pieces, these toys, because they've been pocketing these hundreds of millions for years.
Yeah, David will have great insight as to this question, and we'll get to it in a second. But do you guys actually think this moves the needle and sells tickets? And because every time I tune into that team, like during the regular season, the crowd is kind of disappointing.
Well, I would ask you, Stugotz, look, we've made fun of Stugotz's Mets fandom. Stugotz, I would say, is as famous of a Mets fan as there would be anywhere in sports radio.
I was going to say, Jerry Seinfeld.
Right,
like
Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Sports radio.
Yeah, sports radio, I mean.
In our industry,
Sal.
Look, I don't take for granted when we get to be national voices on things. Stugotz gets to be a national voice of fandom on Jets, on Mets. But over the years, the Mets have broken him.
Yeah, baseball has broken.
Well,
yes.
so when he signs Francisco Lindor, which was a previous Giant contract, when Stugotz plays who that is, he can't figure out who the shortstop is for his own team. He doesn't recognize him on sight because he checked out on what the Mets have been for too long.
Yeah, Jose Reyes he's a good player. He is. Listen, I love the Soto deal. And, if Mike's going to ask me, and we'll get to David's thoughts on this in just a second here, but in terms of ticket sales, I have to think it's going to help. You're getting one of the game's best players. He's coming off a 41 home run season. And he did it in the Bronx, and now he's doing it in Flushing, Queens. I mean,
the Mets had to do something to kind of come back from Grimace last year, right?
Yes.
So now they're focusing on baseball.
Bounce back.
So I'm sure Yankee fans will be reasonable about this. Here's one of them outside of Shitty Field. Look at this. This is where the Mets, like the Yankees look down on all Mets things. To lose the player they wanted, their World Series star, the guy who protects fragile Judge, to lose him to the Mets is the worst of indignities.
Yo, Juan Soto, listen up, man. This is your new home. This is your new home right here. Shut the up and don't complain. Look at this. Look at this.
Panning around.
Right across the street. Look at this.
He's panning at the dump
Road
around Shitty
closed.
Field.
You chose this piece of shit to be your home for the next 15 years because you're a money-hungry you. Every Yankee fan should burn you jersey. You, Juan Soto, suck my dick. You too, Scott Boras. Suck my.
All right, excellent work by that guy.
One snuck through.
Sure, Yankee
We got it,
fans,
though.
I'm sure Yankee fans will be totally reasonable about this.
He was on the Yankees for like 35 games.
I know, right?
Like, he was there half a
I know. He
season.
carried
What
them
are
to the
we
World
doing?
Series. No, it's the greatest. No, but this is the stupidity of this. Like, the Steinbrenners are like, we will not get outbid for this. And Yankee fans, they know what their fan base, they know what their customers are. John Turturro's brother was just swinging a bat at us. he's hitting his palm with a bat. Play that sound again.
It felt personal.
But not that sound. Go back to the Turturro sound because, look, he's wearing a Yankee jacket. I've seen Nick Turturro act, okay? He does not act this well.
Why do you keep doing this?
Stop taking out Nick Turturro.
This is the realest I've ever seen this man. What I'm saying is this is not an act. He's not playing a wrestling character. He's angry.
Dan, stop picking on Ida Turturro's brother.
Play that sound for me again,
Juan Soto,
please.
I got two words for you. You. That's right. You and the horse you rode in on. And the cavalry behind you. That's right, Yeah, I'm taking it personal. We gave you our love. We gave you our heart and soul. It wasn't enough. You turned your cap around after the World Series. I saw that move. 700 million, 730. Yeah, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Guaranteed years, it wasn't enough. You don't even choose the Dodgers. You don't even choose the Dodgers. You go off Broadway to the Mets. You don't want to be on Broadway, and you don't want to be Judge's guy. You don't want to be Judge's partner. Oh, that's right, Judge. Now it's your team. That's it. Let's stick it up his ass. That's right. Let's go out. Let's get burned, pregnant. Let's take Oscar. I don't give a. Now we're not around. Take those grungy, whatever those. Oh, those Mets.
fans. There it is.
It's great. It's WFAN.
It's just insane. Wait, once you get to look, 2 words for you. Mm-hmm. And then it's bleep you. There are the 2 words. That's enough. We could be done. No, but here's the thing.
Right.
Here's the thing. It would not stop there. It could not stop there because when you get stuck right there, 2 words, and it's insufficient, then all of a sudden, I don't know why this is, there's the horse you rode in on.
That made it 9 words. Yeah.
Well, but what is that? I don't know that expression. Like, that's just when I've run out of material, but I really want you to know this. But I don't understand, why is there a horse that he rode in on?
Now, Dan, the interesting thing about that is he gave us the rare extended version. Usually it's the FU and the horse you rode in on. He gave us FU and the horse you rode in on and the cavalry, too. Yeah. And that's the extended version. That it's like have you ever heard the full version of the national anthem, the second verse? Like, it's like that.
Also, I don't recall him riding in on a horse. I think in Yankee history, this would only apply to Wade Boggs.
Only person.
Yeah. In Mets history, Yoenis Cespedes and Noah Syndergaard showed up to spring training on horses one year.
That's right. Thor. Yeah.
By the way, just a quick correction. He played 157 games for the Yankees, not 35.
He played a full season.
Do we have the origin of this?
Please get the origins.
I think it was Cespedes.
I'm seeing New York Times in 1998. They did a deep dive on it, and they found it in early 70s novels, The Friends of Eddie Coyle and No Bugles, No Drums. Novels from the early 70s.
Which 70s? The 1970s or the 1870s?
Yes, 1970s.
Wow, really? That
Makes
recent?
sense now.
No, that's got to be 1770s. That can't be. The horse
The
I'm
New York
I'm not-
Times
I'm not-
found them in early 1970 books.
So I think what's happening is those books, by the way they sound to be Western books. So it might be a book written about a time where we thought, hey, what would be a cool thing they would say back then? F you and the horse you rode in on. And then it was actually created. It's kind
But
of
there's
like
no way. If I tell the people in our audience right now how old is and the horse he rode in on, there's no way that they're going to say 50 years old.
They would say early 1900s.
I know a way that we can find out for sure. Greg Cody, because if it happened in the 70s, then for him that would have been too new. He's like, what is this newfangled thing they're saying the horse you rode in on? Back in my day, we didn't have horses, right? Or whatever the hell he would go with it. That's the only kind of authority I can think of who can give us some clarity about that.
I'm just shocked at how recent this phrase is. I mean, Jared Leto is older than this saying.
No.
Yeah, I think Leto was born in 1971.
What? He's 50?
Yeah.
Jared Leto is 50.
Yeah.
He's my age.
Well, that's the Hollywood cabal, Dan.
Need to start drinking children's blood.
Mm-hmm.
Put it on the poll. I already do.
He has looked better in the last couple of years, I'll say.
Less bloated.
Dan or Leto?
52 in 2 weeks for Jared Leto.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder what David Sampson thinks is his best role. We'll get to all that.
We should ask him that.
But is this a good move? Is like they're better, right?
I want to ask Billy
they
this
went to the
because
NLCS last
of course it's a good move to buy the best player and put him in your lineup, and you are mortgaging future. But I think this owner is behaving the way that Stugotz, as a fan, as a Torturo, as someone who cares about the team, how you want your owner to behave, which is, you will get me the best player no matter the cost because we want to win right now. And what the Mets won today, they didn't just beat football yesterday. The Mets spent they spent $750 million to beat the Yankees yesterday and today. Stevie Cohen loves to win the press conference.
Yes.
He had lost Mets fans already once, Stugotz. This is your bright new owner, and already he'd lost you once where he spent all the money and then you got mad at him and you stopped caring about his team. You wouldn't go to shitty fields for a game.
No, he started off great. They had they made it to the postseason, I believe, and then everything kind of went downhill, and last year was a rebuilding year. They made it to the NLCS, a rebuilding year in which they were spending over $300 million in payroll. But this is a great day to be a Mets fan. You outbid the Yankees. I don't care if it works out or not. I do not care. I don't care what he looks like in 15 years. I don't care what he looks like in 10 years. Today, the Mets won. They beat and outbid the New York Yankees and the Dodgers. And for today, and today only, Met fans can feel really good.
I mean, but the thing about the Mets, right, is that you said their $300 million payroll. A lot of that money was going to players who were on other teams
I know.
that they got rid of because they signed them to bad contracts.
I know.
And Bobby Bonilla was still getting paid by the Mets last year.
I understand that.
Like, they paid Max Scherzer to win a World Series in Texas.
Yes, but it's a team that got to the NLCS, and they just added one of the best young players in baseball.
So let's do it this way.
Time to throw away all journalistic credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
You're good.
Before we get to David Sampson, I just think Stevie Cohen wants to win the game before the apocalypse of the economy coming for all of us ends up swallowing all of American currency. And Stevie Cohen, it's paper money. He wants to win right now.
I mean, this again?
Because whatever, Bitcoin is coming and it's all false rich. And how is Elon Musk that rich? And why is he wandering around with the president? And so Stevie Cohen wants to win right now because 5 years from now, when the Dodgers $1 billion deferred makes all the cable companies collapse, there's going to be no sports money anymore. And these contracts are funny money.
I don't think any of that is how that works.
Yeah.
No? David
I
Sampson.
think there will always be sports money.
David
you can
Sampson.
ask David.
David, we want
Later
your
on.
expertise here. Nothing Personal is the name of his podcast. I am positive he covered this very well. How much of your show did it take up today? Of the 50 minutes of important talking, how much did you discuss just this?
About 37 minutes, and now it's been 27 minutes sitting here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk on a subject that is worthy of your time, that you've butchered. You've butchered it, Dan, in a way that I guess is unique to you.
I mean, we gave it 27 minutes.
27 minutes on horses and cavalries.
I mean, Turturro.
Yeah, Turturro carried us there. Like it was good. It was good acting by him. I think you'd agree.
It's the Yankee fans were going to respond that way, obviously, and that's exactly what baseball wants for today. Stugotz got it right. There is an issue today, and the issue is that Scott Boras got to reclaim his post as the record holder. The issue is that Steve Cohen handed it to him on a platter and said, Scott, you're forgiven for last year's 4 players who signed late for not a lot of money. You got Snell done, and now you've got the record away from Nez, Ohtani's agent. You got it in years, you got it in notional dollars, and you got it in average annual value. Scott Boras is the record holder, and he used Juan Soto. And for all you sucker Yankee fans who thought he was going to be a Yankee, or for all you Mets fans who said, oh, he's a Met because his chauffeur couldn't get into the private room, that's a new one this morning, give me a break. Boras wanted the record. Soto wanted Boras. It was all meant to be.
I want to play some video here of Jeff Passan talking about this with Scott Van Pelt because they're saying that it's not just because the Mets offered $5 million more. And the talk now is, but the Yankees were offering 16 years guaranteed. So here's Jeff Passan talking about this with Scott Van Pelt.
The Mets weren't that much at a different place, Scott, than the New York Yankees were. The Yankees had a $760 million offer, only $5 million less, spread out over 16 years. So it wasn't a huge demonstrable difference. In the end, I think Juan Soto looked at the New York Mets future and looked at the New York Yankees future and believed that the Mets have a better future than the Yankees, which is a wild thing to think, right? The Yankees have been the most successful franchise in North American professional sports history. They have 27 championships. The New York Mets have been the New York Mets. And so to see the transformation that Steve Cohen has helped make with this franchise over the last 4 years after he bought it, to turn them from laughingstock into the team that Juan Soto wants to play with because he believes that they are going to have a brighter future, speaks volumes about what he has been able to do since he has bought the team. And this, I think, is just the beginning. They are going to spend more money. They are going to continue to have payrolls like this. And to spend $765 million, to be up potentially at $805 million, it seems unfathomable, but that is how ultimately the New York Mets got Juan Soto.
Sampson?
First of all, when Mike Hampton signed a contract, he pretended he liked the school system in Colorado. When Manny Machado signed the contract, he pretended he really liked the minor league system of the Padres. Are you joking? Anyone who's on a network telling you that we looked into the future and we studied it like Zorak or Zolak or whatever the hell his name is and said the Mets have a better future than the Yankees.
Scott Zolak?
Ben Solak.
Karnak.
Come on. What is that? Zolak?
Karnak.
Come on. So your reference was not only wrong, but it was from Johnny Carson's age, and you got it wrong. Zolak is what you gave us. He's so enraged. There's no way he's going to be himself today. Do you understand how crazy this makes him? Samson loses today. Boris wins, and he's locked in hell.
Boris won completely, Dan, and you put me in this place where it is hotter than Hades, and I'm stuck with a head next to Boris, which this is about as close as I've been to his head. Wait. Oh, much better.
Those horns fit you
Please
perfectly.
don't make that noise.
What is happening? You got inside Scott Boris?
I guess I would just tell you that Scott Boris had this, and I want to make sure we don't lose sight of that. It wasn't about the Mets. It wasn't about the Yankees. This was about records. And Soto can give whatever excuse he wants, but the truth is Steve Cohen was not going to lose out, and Scott Boris did what he was supposed to do. He took advantage of the fact that Steinbrenner was here, that Stevie Cohen was here. Forget the Red Sox, I feel for them, and the Blue Jays, oy vey, and the Dodgers, doesn't even matter. This was all going to be New York v. New York from the beginning, and the way it was structured, word's going to come out. Wait for that. The way this was structured, the Mets just offered more money by a lot, not $5 million the way you're describing it.
Oh, okay. Well, I was doing the math with the $5 million because I'm imagining a scenario where Soto's like, you know what? These are close. I'll stay a Yankee. We were good last year, and Boris is like, over my dead body, you're
what do you
know what I mean?
What are the
Taking
details,
a little less.
What are the details, Samson, that are going to make this a distorted amount of money? That it's being presented one way today, the day that everyone's talking about it, and then no one will notice the other part of this, which is that that Soto ends up getting how much more worth out of being with the Mets than the Yankees, and were Yankee fans right to be mad at the Steinbrenners for not outbidding the Mets?
First of all, no. Now, if the Yankees pivot to other players, they actually have a better chance to be better. This is not basketball. One player, even the best player, doesn't guarantee you a World Series. Ohtani at $2 million, that helps. That's his money. But Soto was never going to take deferrals. And what you're going to see get released is what the cash flow is of this contract. We know already $75 million out the door upon execution. He's getting a $75 million check as soon as he passes his physical and the contract gets approved by baseball and the union. Did the Yankees offer that type of signing bonus? I bet you not. Then look at the annual amount of money that he receives each year. Is more of it up front? Is it spread out in a straight line? Did the Yankees deal have deferrals? There's a lot of details that we'll be able to find out, but all of the reckless speculation that is happening now, it only makes Boris smile because he gets to come out with how much Steve Cohen outbid everyone.
Samson, how wrong did you get this? When they turned down $440 million from the Nationals, your thought was that was going to end up becoming how much by when in Boris's control? Like by how many hundreds of millions were you wrong here?
You have to remember that I'm used to this. This is what Scott Boris does with all of his players. You don't get to sign them before they become free agents. He wouldn't let us sign Jose. He wouldn't let us sign Ozuna. He doesn't like contracts other than for Steven Strasburg in the middle of a deal when you know the guy can't lift his arm or go to the bathroom with the proper hand. You know that he'll agree to an extension. With Soto, you bet on yourself. He didn't have him insured, I promise you that, but you bet on yourself, and in this case, he won. So tip your cap. You got this one, Scott. But the other players in baseball are aware of your tactics, and it works sometimes, but only for a few of the players. For a majority, it fails miserably.
David, I'm fascinated because if you look at the other major professional sports, as they've gone on in time and collective bargaining negotiations, their CBAs have gotten more owner-friendly. They've gotten more restrictive, more conservative in that way. Baseball hasn't. Has there ever been close to getting a salary cap in there or any sort of salary restrictions?
Yeah, this was about 5 minutes of the show this morning to me, and here's why it's important. Because with a salary cap comes a salary floor. And there's about 4 teams every year that can't reach what a salary floor would be. And we went and did a calculation when this was discussed during a CBA maybe 10 years ago, and we said we'll agree to a cap, but the floor has to be at a place that we get funded in order to get to the floor because we can't do it ourselves. And it wasn't just the Marlins. Marlins, Rays, Guardians, Royals, A's, Brewers. We could get to 8 teams pretty easily where they would fall under the floor from time to time, and you can't allow that. It doesn't happen in the NFL, but in baseball it would have.
I just so wish, David, that all sports had this so that I could watch Jerry Jones want to get somebody like from somebody he doesn't like, from Bob Kraft, so that I can
Just
see.
to get him?
Oh, just because they can, because it's all funny money.
But Dan, the crazy thing about it is, and I think it works almost across all sports, the teams that spend the most money often aren't the best teams. It's like when you take those guardrails off, bad ownership is going to mess it up anyway. And so that's part of it. When I look at this deal, there's a red flag for me that goes off. It's like, but it's the Mets. Like if the Dodgers did this, I would, oh, wow, that's a great pickup.
If the Yankees did it.
The Yankees did
Right.
it, we'd have more faith. The fact that it's the Mets, like I know Jeff Passan's plugged in and all, but I'm like, I don't think that signifies a new era in the Mets. It sounds like the same old Mets. They pay a guy, and it turns out he was the wrong guy.
David, your thoughts here on you having to eat it again, because Boris continues to play all of your owners. He toys with them. Like the thing that you want more than anything else, Yankees, Mets want the same player.
Well, he's so happy right now because he has the ultimate leverage in Steve Cohen.
No, but it's not just that though. David, just give me the amount of money that Scott Boras makes with this contract, because just him, he gets $35 million for negotiating this. Doesn't he get 5%?
Yeah, the deal is 5% for him, but don't you worry. He's got a whole scouting department. He's got all sorts of facilities that make it really good for his players. He invests right back. Yes, he's gotten very rich, and eventually you tip your chapeau to him for doing this.
What?
But it's owners. It is owners who let him get away with it. But remember, this is an outlier, folks. Juan Soto, he's a generational player. Only comes around once every year. That's the crazy part. Scott Boras, we had a chance to absolutely take away all of his power. He got crushed last year, and you could see him deflating. And what Juan Soto has done, and Blake Snell too, they've put him right back. They've repowered him, and now he thinks he's the most powerful person in baseball. I can't wait for the press conference because, believe you me, like the Blake Snell one, he'll be sitting right up there in the dais. He'll get to address the media and talk about this deal, and then he gets to go like the Sneetch's star belly on the side of my body. He'll go to the Yankees and say, you need Corbin Burns now, don't you? You need Max Fried now, don't you? And he's peddling all of his players to get overpaid. I'm sickened and lonely.
This Boris thing, Dave, is starting to sound a little personal.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, because last year we saw, obviously, the big Ohtani deal. Now we have the big Juan Soto deal. But aside from the Ohtani deal, it was kind of a slow free agency last year. That there weren't players getting the big contracts that they wanted. They were settling for shorter deals. Is that something you think we're in store for this year as well, after this Soto deal?
Well, you've seen what happened with Adames going to the Giants. He got 7 years, and it looks like owners are willing to spread it out. Why? You're going to see it different this year. It's because there's a new collective bargaining agreement coming at the end of next season. The negotiation starts, and there's a very real push to put caps on what players can sign, maximum years in a deal. It'll be hard to get. It'll cause a work stoppage. But players now want to get signed, and owners want to get them signed before they lose the advantage of big market over small market. So you're seeing a different market this year totally.
I have a stolen stat of the day if you want it, Dan. This is stolen from
stolen one.
Well, but hold on a second then. I'd have to play the music. And you did you cue it? Did you tell Chris Cody you need a stat of the day?
Well,
Start of the day.
It's a stolen one.
Start of
Stolen,
the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. It is your start of the day.
This stat is stolen from @SportsCenter on Twitter. Juan Soto just signed a 15-year, $765 million deal. LeBron James and Tom Brady's combined career earnings, $761 million.
Yeah. So they've been getting these guys cheap for a long time, and David Sampson is one of your chief culprits for gaming this system for a while, and then he gets gamed and played by Scott Boras, where if you don't have a salary cap, this is what all of – do you know how underpaid Mahomes is? Do you have any idea how underpaid Patrick Mahomes is? Behind Tua, behind Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, something's off in Kansas City, though, right? I mean,
Stugotz.
Mahomes.
Stugotz. Come on.
Stugotz minor penalty, 2 minutes for Chiefs talk.
Amin asked this earlier of you, David, and I'm wondering, even though it's in the CBA and there's a CBA coming up, there's no way baseball's ever going to have a salary cap, right? Like, why would the Players Association ever agree to that? The horse is out of the barn on that one.
Yeah, we've tried for so many years. It's not going to happen, and the reason is exactly this. The funny part is only a few parts of the union benefit from no salary cap. Are we off the air?
The horse is out of
Billy,
the barn.
No,
but
Billy has been holding on to the horses out of the barn for 10 minutes. You did a chateau thing that we could have latched onto.
Chateau.
not chateau.
Whatever.
That's a fine.
That's a fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wait, no, we
but
don't have them
the horse
anymore.
is the horse out of the barn so you can get the hay
Why
in the
is
barn.
horse out of the barn?
You don't make hay, I know that.
Well, not unless the
Say
sun's shining.
Oh,
Can you play a song for me? I don't know what is happening right here. Okay, what is happening here? I don't understand what's happening here.
Well, we have a song, Dan.
Well, but Samson is being comforted as he sucks his thumb with Stugotz holding him. Like that's what we're
In
doing.
hell
Yeah.
with Scott Boras.
But we have like on our staff a guy that feels passionately about the New York Yankees, and at a moment's notice, you know that I can always get Taylor over here. He created a song. He's heartbroken.
I thought that he was working on North Carolina Belichick material. Let's hear
Do
Taylor.
you want to talk to him about that?
Yes,
'cause
let's.
we have to just switch gears.
Yes,
for that.
okay, I do. Just keep him there for a second. I don't like playing his songs. I agree with that one constructive critic at our last
He's the voice of a
Flanagan's party
generation.
John Olerud's song was a banger.
who says that less Taylor is what this show needs. Let's give them less Taylor.
Our hopes were high when we got you from San Diego. A ridiculous price to pay for rental that still lost the World Series in 5 games. I thought you'd wear pinstripes forever, but forever's gone away. It's so hard to say goodbye to Juan Soto.
Taylor sings for a generation. I gotta salute you. I'm sorry, I do, because this is the perfect ending to all of this. Do you understand that today is a national holiday? We all get to laugh at the Yankees for not having enough money. They've always had the most money, and their fans, the Turturos of the world, think they deserve to beat the Red Sox and the Dodgers and everyone else, and they just lost to the Mets. And you saw, they know where Shitty Field is. They know the dump the Mets stadium situation is. It's Flushing, New York. They make fun of it as a toilet. Everybody knows this. And Juan Soto.
All right, relax. There's only so much Flushing, New York trash talk I'm going to take, man.
And the Bronx isn't much better.
All right, let's.
I will tell some of our favorite listeners who come out and see us, even if we're on the edge of the Everglades, watching the Dolphins wheeze past the Jets in overtime. Aaron Rodgers, those are the best 2 games I've seen Aaron Rodgers play. The last 2 are the best 2 I've seen him play. He's auditioning for a new job because
or the same job.
The only reason the Dolphins lost yesterday is because the Jets insist on being losers. That's and Tua is great. He's got the highest completion percentage of anyone who's ever thrown a football.
Yeah.
Yeah, in season, career-wise, nobody's ever been more accurate than this person at people being thrown the football and catching it.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I want Aaron Rodgers back.
No, shut up.
The thought of Aaron going somewhere else and being great somewhere else, I'd rather him just be bad as a Jet. I'm serious. I can't watch Sam Darnold every week. I can't watch Geno Smith every week. I don't want to watch Aaron Rodgers win somewhere else. I don't lose here.
First 300-yard game since 2021. He has not been good, but he's auditioning for next season. And the last 2 games, he's looked good. Like that, the Dolphins deserved to lose that game. They could not, though, because the Jets are losers.
Do you think that Aaron Rodgers documentary is going to help him at all? Because I feel like it's only going to hurt him, right?
Hurt him how? He wants to be seen as unusual and eccentric, and he's got some of that fun CTE.
In terms of getting a contract next year, I feel like we're all going to watch and be like, yeah, it's probably best not to go down that rabbit hole.
I don't think he wants to be seen as any of those 3 things.
You think blacklisted for having kooky theories is what's going to keep him out of the league?
Not blacklisted, but I mean, his play hasn't been great, and at a certain point, you're like, is it worth this headache?
But then he can claim that he was blacklisted because he had 2 good games. He just threw for 300 yards. He shredded the Dolphin defense. Those were dimes. Like everything he was throwing on 3rd and 4th down, I'm like, oh, that's what Garrett Wilson is supposed to look like. Oh, look, Devontae Adams, that's what a million reps looks like. Like, that's not possible to stop. He's going to drop back 3rd and 4, and you're not going to be able to stop it. The Jets didn't have to punt. The Dolphins win that game in overtime, but didn't deserve to. Your boy Sanders is the most accurate kicker in the league.
Yeah, we workshopped this idea, Dan, and I put the kibosh on it because it's not fully fleshed out, but I would like to run it by you because I feel like you're going to like this idea, just not in its present form, so we didn't go to air with it, right? So I was told by Taylor, who's a singer-songwriter of our generation, some are saying, and he was saying tomorrow you need to literally eat humble pie when it comes to Jason Sanders. So what I was going to do is I was going to go to Burger King, go to the drive-thru, get a piece of Hershey Sundae pie, which is absolutely delish, and it's like $1.85, which is a great deal. So I was going to get a slice, but then I figured eating a slice of pie would not suffice. But also eating an entire pie, I mean, my sugar would be crazy right now. Like, I'm not diagnosed pre-diabetic, but I know that my diet is not good, and I know I'm headed in that direction. So I don't want to be eating an entire pie. I feel like that's going to end poorly for me.
So what are we going to do?
Well, that's the thing is we need to figure out what type of pie is eaten here, because I feel like you like the idea of a segment called Eating Humble Pie when someone is proven wrong. However, the payoff is just you're watching someone eat a pie. So what is the actual payoff there besides just making someone
I
eat
would
a
imagine
disgusting
eating
pie?
a whole pie would hurt. I imagine it would be unpleasant.
Yeah, but it's a pie. Eating pie is fun.
It's also that's the thing is that if
entire pie, Jessica makes good things. An entire pie, like you went to the hospital for an onion. You might go to the hospital from eating an entire pie.
I heard of that. Yeah, well, that's the thing is like if I go next door and I'm just eating a slice of pie and I'm like, Dan, I'm doing this new segment.
Make us a humble
called
pie. Yes,
eating humble pie, and I'm just eating a slice of pie. You'd be like, this is a giant waste of everyone's time. You're just enjoying a pie you like, and you'd be right.
I am curious as to how Jess would design and curate a humble pie. As you know, baking is her core culinary discipline.
Well, let's ask her because thank you to everybody who came out yesterday. We do not take that for granted that you come from all over the United States to hang out with us and watch a football game. I have a cringe story for you here. Billy was a magician on stage. He had such a rhythm with the crowd that they were guessing his numbers on the first guess when he was asking them to pick a number between 1 and 100. Do you know how hard that is? Do you know what the odds are?
It was amazing.
I felt like I was asking O's, the mentalist, to pick a number, and
you
he
were
knew
amazing.
the number.
You had the crowd in your hand. Jessica was out there with us, and I've been wanting to get her thoughts because college football, Stugotz, we haven't even gotten to this, okay? SMU gets in. Clemson is the first to steal a bid. I'm sure all of you are thrilled for Dabo Swinney. Clemson steals its way in. Everyone knows that team's not good enough.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it.
The committee ranked them 16th.
Everyone knows that team's not good enough. We've seen that team. It's not just, look, you don't give me committee, don't need numbers, don't need a scoreboard. Nope, not good enough. Stole a bid. I'd rather see Alabama or Miami or BYU. But Dan Lanning is claiming SEC bias, which is hard to do today.
Or South Carolina, who beat Clemson 2 weeks ago.
That's correct.
Yes.
That is correct, because everybody in the sport has lost recently. But, Jessica, your overall thoughts, and welcome, your overall thoughts on everything that just happened, because I expect a ton of arguing, but once Clemson throws this chaos into it, you got to shrug your shoulders and say, okay, fine, SMU's the loser in there, and then you keep Alabama out. You look like you did it clean.
Yeah, I mean, I think my initial reaction is, man, this Sunday television show is very silly. I sat there and I waited and I waited. And I was like, just tell me who the teams are. Just show me the teams. And I had to keep waiting. And I think I watched like a full hour of the show before they even got to the full 1 through 25 ranking. And I was like, I have to go to Dolphin Mall. I don't have time for this. But yeah, I mean, Clemson, you could say they stole a bid. They don't get a bye. They're the only conference champion in the playoff that's not going to get a bye week, but they won the game that was in front of them that they had to win to make the playoff. And there's a lot of teams that were in that position this season, Miami, that they didn't do that. So I guess, have fun playing in Austin against Texas. Texas, by the way, they didn't look very good in the SEC championship game, so that game actually might be interesting.
Because that conference isn't actually that good. Georgia's not actually that good. They beat Texas by 3 points, and now Georgia gets to be good when none of those teams are actually that good.
It is an interesting look when Georgia Tech takes the SEC champion to 8 overtimes. I was very curious to see, had Georgia lost that game, Jess, when we established the Jordan Travis precedent, Carson Beck status. If Georgia loses that game by a wide margin, do you think the CFP applies the Jordan Travis logic and keeps Georgia out? Or is that just exclusive to screwing the ACC?
Not at all, because the situation last year was that Travis got hurt, and then we watched Florida State's backup play a couple games, and the committee was like, it's not the same team. And I'm not saying I agree with that.
Yeah,
but I think it's
they won an ACC
different
championship there, right?
Yeah, right. But I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying they wouldn't have done that because, I mean, it's Monday morning. We still don't know what Beck's injury is. I assume it's pretty bad. It looked really bad, but I don't know what his test results were. I don't know if Gunnar Stockton is going to start in the Sugar Bowl against either the winner of Indiana Notre Dame. So yeah, I think it's sort of a different situation. Not saying that it was right last year, just that it would have been they wouldn't have done that this year.
It's just awfully convenient that it's always a different situation for one conference. You try to apply the same logic, and the goalposts keep moving for whatever reason when it comes to the SEC.
But SMU's in, right? Like Alabama didn't get in over SMU.
Well, SMU's in, Jess. Do you think SMU's in because they fought back in that game? Because it felt like all of Saturday, the ESPN media machine and all the CFP partners were basically laying the foundation to screw SMU out of this. SMU battles, loses on the last second 56-yard field goal, and that's the way that the committee...
That's ridiculous, though. Having a good fourth quarter is a ridiculous reason to put SMU into the playoffs.
Stugotz, all these reasons are ridiculous.
Yes.
We're parsing. These teams don't play each other enough. Like Texas, you hold up Texas's resume right now, and the fact that they actually made it to the conference championship is really the only thing that they have going for it, because if you give Miami that resume, they're OLI. So it's all a little bit ridiculous.
I think one of the things, Jessica, please walk me through what you saw from yesterday and tell me where it is that me and Mike have this wrong, because Mike is getting on X. Man, all that crying against the SEC by Mike Ruiz sure does look a little sad right about now. I think, and
I did not tweet that about myself, just so you know.
Who tweeted that?
I don't know.
Very self-aware.
Mike Ryan has been telling us about the SEC for a while, and I don't know how many more results you need, okay? Lane Kiffin.
I actually, Dan, I felt like Saturday went pretty well. Everybody watching that game was like, this is pretty disappointing. This is an SEC championship game. I mean, we're over here pivoting and selling the defense, and I understand every game's in a vacuum, but I saw Georgia Tech put up like 500, like close to 600 yards of offense against that vaunted SEC
Georgia
defense.
Tech is obviously very well coached, and Georgia Tech, we can all agree. You take Georgia there, you take Miami there, you're probably a pretty good football team. Like
what is the question? Let's go back.
I will.
Yes. We ended up on a tweet. Tell me the question.
I will. Forgive me for the ramble here.
It's a fair request.
No, it is a fair request. But what I'm watching is, I think that everyone came into this with what their preconceived notions were about what SMU is, what BYU is, what Georgia Tech is, what Georgia is, what Syracuse is. And nobody got their minds changed when everyone started playing. SEC starts playing each other, and we're like, well, they all must be good. And we're like, no, they're all kind of the same. Vanderbilt's in there, Missouri's in there. They all look the same. And so Miami and others are like, of course it's got to be Alabama with 3 losses. They played in the SEC.
What is the question?
Yeah,
I mean,
what's the question? Miami doesn't deserve to get in anymore because of how things broke, but I'm just curious what the question was.
Do you want to be told you're the first 2 out?
No,
I'd rather just not know, honestly.
It's all right. But I think to the original question that I had twice before, do you think the committee would have screwed SMU out if they didn't battle back in that fourth quarter?
The question.
I don't know. I think that the question with SMU was going to also depend on what they did with Penn State and Texas. So I think like going into Sunday, if they were going to treat the conference championship games differently, they had to at least do it uniformly. So like Penn State and Texas didn't really get punished for losing those games, even though those were both their second losses of the season. So you can't punish SMU for doing it either, even if there's a bigger margin. But I mean, they didn't get blown out, so I can't say that, Mike. Like it was a close game. It came down to a ridiculous kick by Clemson's kicker and like a return that SMU should have stopped. I mean, it was a ridiculous end of the ACC championship game. Also, the only exciting Big Ten championship game of like the last decade, I want to say. So I can't tell you what would have happened because it didn't happen. SMU started out the game with a bunch of really costly turnovers, and it looked like they were letting it get away from them, and they battled back. And I think that, an 11-win team that makes it to the conference championship game, even if they do lose by a wider margin, shouldn't be treated differently than Penn State, who also was down by 14 or 18 points at one point in the Big Ten championship game. And Texas, who couldn't beat Georgia's backup quarterback after Carson Beck went out with that really nasty injury. And then came back in, by the way, in overtime when everyone was like, oh, he's going to hand the ball off. And then he handed the ball off and they were like, oh, the game's over. We didn't realize they were going to do that.
Jess, the transfer portal has opened officially today. There's all sorts of unofficial ugliness going on behind the scenes with players that are in the portal, players that are not in the portal. We have so many rounds of football to go with this portal thing hovering over it. How do coaches navigate this? Because players and their reps are reaching out regardless.
Oh, the whole thing's crazy. I mean, that National Signing Day was like 4 days after like the season ended last week. And then you have the portal opening and there's already tons of players, like Tulane's quarterback, who's really good, just went in. There's also the coaching carousel is still ticking, Mike. I have no idea. I think that is one of the things where you see teams with bigger staffs that have the resources to like manage all those things at once while their team's in the postseason. They're going to be all right, but I don't know. This is why they get paid like $10 million to be the head coach. That's what the money's for. Have fun.
I can't believe that it's taken us this long to get into the show, and I don't know what the reporting is, what's accurate here, because I saw a report that Steve Belichick has been promised the job once Bill Belichick hands that over, and that doesn't seem sound or reasonable to me, but I haven't seen a second source on that, so I'd like somebody to tell me.
Well, ask Taylor.
What's going on?
Mike,
where is Taylor?
Yes.
Where is
Taylor? What's the latest on this Bill Belichick stuff? Because the Steve Belichick thing is out there.
I've been telling people that Belichick is happening. I called Stu last week.
He did.
The expectation from people in Chapel Hill is that Belichick is going to be Carolina's next coach.
Mm-hmm.
There was pressure to get it done Sunday, and everybody that I kept talking to was saying it's very close, it's going to happen. We're into Monday now, and
this is former North Carolina walk-on Taylor.
He's plugged in, Dan.
He's a Carolina insider, Dan.
He's our Carolina insider.
I broke Freddie Kitchens coaching the bowl game.
Well,
he did.
Taylor alleges to have all the information, and then we read about it somewhere else. So what are you breaking? What do you know exclusively as a former walk-on for the North Carolina football team?
Well, I also broke that Carolina was playing in the Fenway Bowl against UConn. Wow. If you want to give me,
don't forget
you
that.
Tell him.
If you want to give me,
all right.
Flower.
You're kind of an insider in that you used to be a walk-on the team, and occasionally you get morsels of information that you break late.
He also told us that Mac Brown was out, but told us we couldn't say anything.
He did. Yeah.
Well, where are we on this? This seems to be a pretty seismic story. Belichick's got to be insulted by what just happened with the NFL. Is it indeed tied to his son? Is it indeed tied to because that'd be crazy if the way you get Belichick to run your program in North Carolina, because Belichick still got value, no? Like, we would agree that you bring Belichick to your program, and now you bring in a brand like Deion Sanders. Hey, we're going to play with the big boys on NIL. We've got a kingmaker. Like, when you're buying one of these coaches, he just did sort of a reverse Brian Kelly, didn't he? Like where, I'm not valuable up here? Okay, I'll show you, and I'll bring my son along.
I don't think there's any talk of a succession plan with Steve Belichick or the head coach in waiting. But there's obviously something that's kind of holding up this deal because from everybody I've talked to, this was supposed to be kind of finalized.
Yeah,
yes.
the NFL.
It's probably the Jaguars, yes.
You're doing great, Taylor.
Okay. All right, get out of here, Taylor. Jessica, do you have any thoughts on this? Mike was yelling that this was a good job, that this is a good job to have, and I did not have Bill Belichick saying, okay, forget it, never mind. Greatest coach in NFL history, I'm going to go do it in college.
I love Taylor's headshot. It is a good job. North Carolina football is a good job. Obviously, North Carolina's primary resources go into basketball, but you're in the ACC. You can recruit down there. You can win a bunch of games and make the playoff now, even if you lose a couple of those games. It's a great time to be a college football coach of a team with like a 9 or 10 win game season ceiling, I should say. So I don't know. Good for Bill. Good luck, my guy. It's gonna be weird.
Jessica, I'm still curious. What goes into a humble pie? Yeah. Make it for us, please.
I would probably just get whipped cream and write the word humble on it, honestly. I don't think it would be like a ingredient that's humbling. I think it would just be like a decoration.
First of all, that sounds incredibly lazy. Second of all,
shortcut.
Yeah, I think he was saying turds. Like he's trying to make a time. Like
Is it
not
cursive?
that. Yeah,
You wanted
Crow?
boring
Do you eat
ingredients.
crow in a humble pie?
Yeah, I mean that if you were to actually make a humble pie to make it edible but also a little bit foul, what are the ingredients? That's what that's
And some crumble, like make it a crumble pie, but you just
crumble pie.
It's got to be a punishment to eat it, right?
Why?
Because you're being
Why do
humbled.
you like punishing people
You're
so
being
much?
humbled.
But you're eating humble pie.
no, but the pie can just say humble on it,
Be
and that's a pie.
delish,
Then
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
humble.
no, but it should not be
Shortcut.
an enjoyable experience, right? You got humble pie. You got to eat like, oh my God, I got to eat. Well, no.
Who's eating the pie? Is it Dan? Because it's going to be full of stuff he's allergic to.
Guys,
so I think that part will be humbling.
So
when
much
he's-
gluten.
You have to dread
Expelling
eating
it.
the humble pie. Of course, it's a punishment.
Sue does bring up a good point.
Thank you.
I'm Dan. I'm doing some research on this North Carolina situation because I'm not going to sleep until this thing is resolved and we have answers here.
Yeah.
And there is talk about Steve Belichick getting a head coaching job as a result. Now, Stugotz told me and the audience yesterday exclusively on the show that Bill Belichick going to North Carolina was deeply tied to his ability to participate in the lacrosse program
Yes.
as well because he loves lacrosse.
And
now,
what I told you is Dave Petramala, one of the great defenders in lacrosse history, is part of the he is one of Belichick's best friends, and he is recruiting Bill Belichick to the University of North
You
Carolina.
broke this on stage.
Dave
God Bless
Petramala.
Football as
Yep.
part of God
Well,
Bless Football's
Petro.
American tour. You
Yes.
punctuated yesterday by live on the air during
yes.
football breaking the news that Belichick was tied to lacrosse in North Carolina.
One of the great long poles in lacrosse history. I mean, what?
Good for him.
Yeah.
Defenders. They have longer poles.
Well, now
Bet they
Taylor said something must be up. Something's happening because the news is supposed to come out on Sunday. It hasn't come out yet. It's Monday. So I've done some digging, and I think that there may be more to this story that's not being reported. Just a hunch. I don't know this for a fact. Now, if we look at Bill's other offspring, Amanda Belichick. Amanda Belichick is the coach at Holy Cross for
Yes.
women's lacrosse. So I said, you know what? Maybe he's trying to get a twofer here, bring all his children in and get them head coaching jobs. Now, here's the hang-up
You're
here.
looking at the wrong Nepo baby media.
Yeah, here's the hang-up here. North Carolina women's lacrosse.
Pretty good.
Head coach Jenny Levy,
Yeah.
Levy, I'm sorry, I'm not sure, Coach L.
Hasn't
but-
won enough, though. I'll tell you
but
that
so
much.
much more qualified than Steve.
Well,
Steve's gotten all the
yes.
fame in the family. So much more Steve has just been hanging around sidelines, creeping around sidelines for 25 years.
Amanda's actually a head coach
Amanda's
somewhere.
out there
Yes.
actually doing the work. Steve is daddy's boy.
Well, here's the thing. Coach L is entering her 30th season as North Carolina's head coach and is a Hall of Famer. So it's going to be hard to force out Coach L here to bring in Amanda, I would think. But I don't know. This could be the hang-up. Maybe look into this, Taylor.
Wait, what about the men's team?
Ooh.
Men's team is fine. I think,
Let's
yeah.
men's lacrosse.
No, I think angling for Amanda Belichick to take over for Jenny Levy once she retires or is forced out. I mean, the football program is more important than the basketball program. If you want, than the lacrosse program. If you want to force Jenny Levy out, the way to do it would be with Bill Belichick. He could get that done. It means more.
But if you're Bill Belichick,
Yes.
you want to make a splash. I want my daughter to coach the men's team. That's right. You want me to coach?
it.
You see what I'm
it.
saying?
Yes.
I'm not only putting my kids in positions of power, I'm putting them in historic positions. Like, oh, she broke the gender barrier.
Yes.
Jess, I have a question for you as it regards to these matchups because the takes are you didn't cover it enough. The takes are flying. Joel Klatt's out there saying this path is easy. I leave it to you. I'm interested in your take. One of the things that bothers me about this is everyone goes to these takes thinking that they actually know what's going to happen, which kind of pisses me off in a year that's been a little bit more unpredictable. What do you think the best game of the first round is going to be, and do you think there is such a thing as an easy path in this thing?
Ooh, I don't know if there's any easy path. I think the 8-9 playing Oregon is definitely really difficult, and I actually think that half of the bracket is pretty hard. There's a lot of speed on that side of the bracket. Like there's a lot of really good players and a lot of really fast wide receivers over there. So I think that if you're Oregon, you're like, oh, I'm getting rewarded for going undefeated by having to play against Tennessee or Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. You'd probably rather play, Penn State versus SMU or Texas versus Clemson or Notre Dame versus Indiana. So I could see that argument for sure. But I really don't think that there's any easy path. I think that the thing that's great about the 12-team playoff this year is that all the teams in the playoff are really good and are, I think, all capable of winning at least a game. But they're all teams with tremendous flaws. Like Georgia has, especially if Beck is out.
I thought everyone agreed that number 5 was the slot that you wanted to be in if you were going to be with a bye. That you wanted to be where Notre Dame.
Well,
was
I think
trending.
the assumption was that the group of 5 team would be the 12 seed when we all saw the playoff format and the Pac-12 ceased to exist any longer. It'd be like, oh, okay, well, you'll probably get the G5 winner in the 12 spot. So the 5 seed will play Boise State or Tulane or Army or whoever, and that's the easiest path forward. But obviously that's not the case. Boise gets a bye, and Penn State, the winner of Penn State SMU, will have to play Boise. And I think Boise's defense is not very good. They're probably I want to say they're 38th in F+ right now or something like that. So yeah, I could see wanting to play Boise for that reason, but the other side of that is that they have the potential Heisman Trophy winning running back on their offense. So I don't think you want to play Ashton Genty. But yeah, I think Penn State's in probably the best spot. But at the same time, we know James Franklin, he doesn't win these games. He doesn't win the top 10 matchups very often or
ever,
at all. So
ever.
it's just I don't know. I think it's going to be really fun.
I think the entire country would be okay with Penn State. No, you're not going to win anything. Get out of here. You're not allowed in. It doesn't make sense. You've got a record to get in, but no, you couldn't score on the goal line in Ohio State. Get out of here.
If that happens, though, you're getting SMU or Boise State advancing.
That's fine. Just get out of here.
Guys, Taylor's tugging on my leg. He has an update.
All right.
Last update for today. The only candidate being discussed right now at Carolina is Bill Belichick.
Wow.
Okay, thank you.
What happened? John Summerall, I saw he tweeted this morning the Wolf of Wall Street meme. So that must be over for sure. I thought Matt Campbell might be an option there, but man, I wouldn't want to play Arizona State either if I'm Texas.
They look pretty good.
They're fast.
They put up big point totals. Billy, get in here because I want to get you in here. Samson wants to get in here. He's upset because he hasn't had any ability to get into the show because we're talking college football, and he's bothered that we're not still talking about Soto.
I'm following up on this big men's lacrosse lead that we got earlier in this show, and I looked up Joe Bresci, who's the men's head coach. Yeah. So I'll just read you one quick line. He's entering his 17th season, and this is how his bio on the website starts. Joe Bresci's coaching philosophy is summed up in 3 words: family, academics, lacrosse.
I thought it was F.U. Soto.
That's what Bresh is all about.
Can you guys get me the sound of Dan Lanning here? I want to get Jessica's response to this. Dan Lanning and people, and I want to get Mike Ryan's response to everyone braying with laughter about his SEC tears.
Apologies to ESPN, but those guys are SEC honks. And so all they do is they talk about how great the SEC is. And, to your face, they're going to tell you how great you are. But behind your back, they're going to tell you how much they love those SEC teams. You know that. You were in the SEC.
They pay the bills, right? I mean, doesn't the SEC pay their bills? I mean, who's their contract with? Is it ESPN's contract?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so that's how it works. Let's not pretend like it doesn't work different than that. But, there's a secret to all that, John. Just win. Just win. They can't deny you if you just win. You can't complain if you just win. So, if you lose 3 games, shame on you, right? If you lose 2, shame on you, right? Win.
That's right. Win, shame on you.
My guy.
That's right. That's right.
My favorite thing that happened yesterday was Greg Byrne getting community notes on Twitter for his annoying. There was like so many SEC fans that were like, why would any SEC team schedule a tough non-conference game? And it's like, you guys know they added Oklahoma to the SEC, right? That was a conference loss for Alabama. What are you talking about? And also the SEC as a conference, you guys know you didn't have to add Oklahoma and Texas. No one made you do it. So I guess you're kind of like net neutral because one of the new teams you added got in the playoff and one of them prevented your darling from not getting in the playoff. So like we came out neutral that you got 3 teams in. Good job. Everyone should be happy. Good, congratulations. One of them might win the national championship. And then what are you complaining about?
Yeah, we have the tweet from Greg Byrne here where he says that they have to reevaluate how they schedule out of conference when all their losses actually came from in conference. Like you scheduled USF, Western Kentucky, and Mercer. Right? Like they had a Wisconsin in there too, but it's just
maybe you shouldn't have hurt Tyler Van Dyke. Maybe you shouldn't have injured Tyler Van Dyke. Just kidding. I know they didn't do that on purpose, but that didn't help because then Wisconsin ended up sucking the rest of the year offensively.
Schedules out of conference schedules are a difficult thing because they're scheduled several years in advance, right? Like Miami actually schedules in the last 10 years. They've scheduled Bama. They've scheduled LSU. They've gone to College Station. They played Texas A&M at home. They've gone to the Swamp. Does it work out? Sometimes you're playing the greatest team of all time. Sometimes you're playing a Texas A&M in a down year, but it buys them nothing, that ambition, because at the end of the day, the CFP is going to go from, oh, you play who's in front of you, we're not going to hold that against you, to actually ranking these teams and boosting their own arguments. Like Miami doesn't have a ranked win. We're being told that by the committee that's doing the ranking that has done something pretty unprecedented, taking a Power 4 team in Duke that has 9 wins and not ranking them. Flatly doesn't happen. It's happened twice in like 15 years.
My favorite was Jim Nagy was tweeting. He does like all the Senior Bowl stuff. He was tweeting about how like if you just take all the NFL talent from the top teams in college football, like all the SEC teams are clearly ahead and blah blah blah. And I tweeted something in response where I was like, look, if you guys want to crown a champion of the SEC, you did that on Saturday. You already have that. The college football playoff is supposed to be like the entire rest of the field, like everyone plays against each other. And then someone responded to me on Twitter and said, we should have an SEC tournament and a college football tournament and the winners play each other for the championship. And I was like, my guy, that's the regular season. That's the whole point. That's what we're doing here. That's why they play the conference games and then they have the champion and then the Big Ten has the conference games and then the champion and the ACC and then there's the at-large bids. Like we already do that. That was the whole point. I don't know what you're talking about.
Guys, I've gotten deeper onto the Belichick story.
Tell me more.
It's all about leverage, right? He's got all the leverage. We just heard from Taylor. He's the only candidate being discussed, right? So that means he's got all the leverage. Not only get Steve Belichick the job after he's done, not only get Amanda Belichick, the men's team,
yeah.
But here's another one. Basketball, men's basketball in North Carolina, been struggling recently, right?
Yeah.
Really struggling. Belichick doesn't have any other kids, though, but I'll tell you what he does have in his close circle. He has a Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend.
Oh.
Make her look. Jordan last time worked really well for the North Carolina basketball
Homecoming,
team.
yeah.
There you go.
It's part of the brand.
Last time they had a Jordan.
Jordan brand.
We're bringing back Jordan. I wanted to ask you guys something
Jordan
about
Hudson.
that, believe it or not. Do you know how much the Nike swoosh was originally sold for? The original Nike swoosh.
Like $12. I love the story.
$35.
Yeah.
What?
$35. I wonder how haunting that is for that person that got ripped off there to see it everywhere.
Dan, I got a great corollary to this. My cousin was telling me he remembers when one of our friends told him years ago, hey, there's this thing called Bitcoin. You should invest in it. And I said, how much was it going for back then? And he said 15 cents. And so I just said, like $100. If you put on $150 on Bitcoin back then, you'd be worth $100 million. And he said, that's bad, but do you know about the story about the guy from Florida who bought 2 Papa John's pizzas with Bitcoin that is now valued at $700 million? That guy, you want to talk about someone hitting their head against a wall and be like, I can't believe how stupid I am. That's got to be the guy who feels worse, right?
You guys are saying you can't believe how bad the guy that designed the Nike swoosh felt, right?
The woman.
Yeah, fine. There's a woman, Caroline Davidson.
The woman.
Yeah, Caroline.
Thank you,
Girls,
Billy.
thank you.
I love you being the vigilant police on that one. Jessica, last thing before we let you go. I have this essentially right. If you didn't watch any college football this year and you went into the season with whatever you thought the ACC was and whatever the SEC was and didn't watch any of the games, The results of what just happened is the SEC got credit for things that didn't happen on the field, and the ACC, for example, does not. Yes or no?
Can you extrapolate?
That the ACC's reputation and the SEC's reputation is what actually did. We didn't have to play the season. We didn't have to watch any of the games.
I mean, then Florida State would be in the playoff because we were all like, oh, they're going to be good this year, right? Like, I don't know. I don't agree with you. No one thought SMU was going to make the playoff. No, they were in week 0. They played Nevada, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be a rough season for SMU.
Okay,
so
but the fact that SMU can play with Clemson and the fact that we know that Clemson's not that good this year suggests that Miami is what was the top of that conference.
Perhaps. Why can't the SEC just be the better conference?
Like, I understand the argument that Miami could have been. I think ultimately,
yeah, they could have been. They really only had to beat Syracuse, and they're in the playoffs. So yeah, like they came down to 4 points, really.
Well, it's just you have these 3 teams that are in the mix, and for like 3/4 of the season, Pitt was also in that mix, and it was frustrating as a Miami fan in that you don't even have common opponents really amongst these conference teams. I don't have the ability to show you. For example, like SMU beat up on like 6 of the bottom teams in the ACC. That obviously plays a factor in their appearance in Charlotte. Now, Miami just doesn't do what it has to do to get in there, but it's a little frustrating that we put together all these massive conferences and already in year 1, we see how someone can game the system, how someone can be fortunate. If Texas doesn't make it to the SEC championship game, you can hold that resume up under a microscope. Indiana is playing Notre Dame, and I'm curious your thoughts on that game because it could be an interesting one because they played 3 teams with winning records all season long in one of these mega conferences in which you couldn't even imagine that. So I think we have a huge issue with being able to decide who truly is the best team in these conferences if we're going to have situations where you could have 4 teams in the mix who don't even play one another.
Yeah, the conferences are giant. The scheduling's uneven. There's never been a really easy way to choose a national champion in the sport, and there never will be. We will argue about it till the end of time. That's why, enjoy the regular season while you have it. Enjoy the bowl games. They're fun. Beat your rival. Like, there's more to the sport than just picking the playoff games and the national champion at the end of it. Like, it's 134 teams and a billion games, and they're awesome. And we'll just keep arguing about it until we die. Eat at Arby's.
That's good. Yes, let's do that. Jess, thank you for being
Ward Manuel. He wins.
Yes.
What do you guys think? There's a clip out there of Cam Ward saying he's going to play in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
No.
Yeah.
He should.
No, he should not.
No, he should
not.
It's a premier ACC destination
No,
for bowl games.
No, he should not. He should not play in that game. He should opt out of that game.
Damian Martinez has already announced that he's going to be playing in it.
No,
it
they should all opt out.
Here.
You should not play against Iowa State for no reason.
Well,
Don't do
Then
that.
you shouldn't get to eat Pop-Tarts for the rest of your life.
Thank you, Jess. We appreciate the time. David Sampson continues to fume. I couldn't ask the question succinctly, but the way that I would just ask you, Stugotz, do you know that Georgia is that much better than Georgia Tech?
Yes, I think Georgia's a lot better than Georgia Tech.
A lot better. They went to overtime, dude. They were up 14 with 5 minutes left, and Georgia got all the calls. Like, this is infuriating. We saw it.
Right. So no one knows anything about college football other than you. He asked me a question.
We
I
saw
gave him an
them
answer.
play.
Right.
We saw them play. Dude, you don't know.
It's my entire
yesterday,
point.
you were asking on the stage, like, Boise State hasn't played anybody. I'd like to see them play Georgia and Alabama. I'm
No.
They were within a touchdown of Oregon at Eugene.
I was making a larger point that this is the playoff I want to see. I don't care about the playoff. I don't care what you want to see. I care about what I want to see.
How do you watch
And what
the
I
Georgia
want to
game?
see is Alabama.
How do you... This is infuriating.
Well,
but
you can't argue what he
yeah, no,
wants
I
to see.
can't.
It's
But
what he wins again.
But
Yeah.
I can argue like Georgia's a lot better than Georgia Tech when we saw them play against one another, and we know that Georgia escaped against them.
Right.
How do you formulate that take? They played like less than 2 weeks
The
ago.
reason I say it is
2 losses, 4
because
losses.
we come in with whatever our opinion already was, and the game doesn't end up mattering even
Well,
as
they
you
have to
watch
ban
it.
preseason rankings because all of that couches all of this.
That
you
I agree
shouldn't be
with.
able to
What?
rank
No.
any teams
That I
until a
agree
month
with.
into the
Ban
season
preseason.
because all of it exists as confirmation bias.
Yes.
How do I know who choked if you don't have
This is-
preseason
Billy,
rankings?
this is what's great.
Banning it.
We get right back to Amin's original point, which is it's so much more fun to watch sports the way that he does. He is a Georgia Tech fan. All he's checked in on is, yeah, we're better than we thought you were, or some form of yelling drunk of Georgia Tech. was actually good this year. Nobody respects Georgia Tech, even though when FSU lost them, we were all like, oh, okay. That was the first note of the season was Georgia Tech drags FSU.
Their top two quarterbacks were out for like 3 games. Okay, like that.
Georgia Tech
that
is
severely
so well
impacted
coached.
their record. They went undefeated at home.
Do you know how much better Miami is than Georgia Tech? I do. Georgia Tech beat you with one quarterback who was so hurt that you couldn't keep him in the game, and another one that told you that every time they were throwing because he came into the game. They beat you with that because
Pro Football
they're pretty.
Focus loves that dude's passing numbers.
They're pretty good, Georgia Tech, obviously, but Stugotz will never say so.
Well, 5 losses.
But they were missing 2 of their quarterbacks for like 3 of the games.
The point is to win the games. They lost 5
Well,
of them.
no, the point is not to win the games. Otherwise, Miami would be in the goddamn college football playoff.
Yeah, they lost to Syracuse too late, though. I mean,
But that's one fewer loss.
I know, but it's when you lose that also matters. Mike.
Alabama lost this month.
Does it? They're
Put
Alabama.
up 3 points.
They're Alabama.
They didn't make
That's not a good argument. All right, Samson,
No,
what
it
can
is
you
the argument,
Samson, what
yes.
can you add to this, Samson? What can you add?
I'm sorry, I was just trying. Could you repeat the question?
Is Georgia Tech as good as Georgia?
Didn't they go to like 15 overtimes together?
That's a great question.
Aren't they sort of the same?
Yeah.
No, not in reputation. No, they're not. I thought before the season that they weren't the same. They played the game. They looked the same. And now I'm back to thinking they're not the same.
765 million. Are we talking about that still?
All right. He's not adding nothing to it. He was bored by our college football conversation because he wants to keep
Killing
saying
me. You're
He's stating the
trapping me.
obvious. He's stating the obvious in that's why there's this whole bias because of the investment.
Go ahead. Talk all the Soto you want. What have we not gotten to?
Oh, that was a Soto thing? I thought he was talking SEC TV deal.
I could have been. I was a little shocked, if we want to talk college football, for just a petite second. With the chaos of Clemson winning, I loved the fact that we got Ward Manuel off the hook by saying, SMU played so well. They were in it to the end, so we didn't have to put them out and bring Alabama in. That's why. The thought of those guys sitting in their comfy couches and watching the game and wondering after the first quarter about the chaos and then saying, phew, SMU had a good final 3 quarters. The whole process is rigged and a joke. But that said, it's the process that you all wanted, and the complaints come as they come.
I am delighted, Stugotz, to bring on an old-fashioned journalist. They're all over the American media. They keep slicing these guys down, but not Pat Forty.
Nope.
Nobody's taking him down. Senior writer for Sports Illustrated, out here still doing the good work with Wetzel, another one of these guys, still waving the journalism flag, but I got to help him. Pat, your backdrop. We can see part of your house. We can see behind the Sports Illustrated thing. We can see that there's a painting back there. We need to crop that. We need to get somebody to help you so that looks like it's a tighter.
I can see part of the picture.
Look, back in the newspaper days when you were at the Miami Herald and I was at the Louisville Courier-Journal, there were no backdrops. There was no video. There was none of this. I'm out of my element. Sorry.
Right.
It's okay, but you're out
He's
here.
right.
It's okay. That's all right. We got to get him some help. I think we need to put a tapestry behind him, get some Meadowlark backing, just to give him a little. Sports Illustrated's hit hard times, Stugotz.
Right.
Pat Forty's out here carrying the journalism flag here very strongly.
They don't have an extra inch of backdrop.
One of the last remaining good soldiers out there, and he's watched a lot of college football, and so I'd like to get his historic perspective here on whether these changes are good for anybody other than made-for-television wonder and extravaganza, that these 12 games are just making football bigger and bigger and bigger because we must.
Well, I mean, there's certainly that element to it. We like gigantism, right, in American sports. But, no, I think this is great. I love a 12-team playoff, Dan, because you got more fan bases involved. Think about this last weekend where a lot of people are really interested in the Boise State UNLV Mountain West Conference Championship game. A lot of people were hanging on the edge of their seat to see SMU against Clemson. You go back, a couple of weeks earlier, there were 20 teams still involved in whether they may go to the playoff, whereas in years past, we're looking at, 5 or 6 for 4 spots. And so I just think there's more interest, more involvement. And then the playoff itself, I think, is going to be awesome. We get campus games. Those are going to be great. We get extended quarterfinals and semifinals. I mean, it's all going to go on too long. I mean, we're not finishing till January 20th, and I wonder how many people will still be interested by then. But I love the run up to this point, and I think the first round is going to be awesome.
I think it's been great as well, but I'm wondering, Pat, of the 12 teams that made the playoffs, how many of those 12 have a realistic chance of winning the national championship?
I would give at least more than half, I would say.
Really?
Yeah. Look, I think it's pretty wide open. I mean, Oregon's really good, deserved to be number one and the favorite and all that. But after that, I mean, look, the number 2 seed is Georgia, which we've seen just like all over the map. They've played terribly at times. They've played great at times. Notre Dame could be really good, but haven't played against a really quality opponent in a while. Penn State, probably good. Texas, maybe good. You get on down the line. Arizona State. Does anybody really
We're
want
supposed
to
know. You're supposed to be an expert. What do you mean? We played a bunch of games. What do you mean? Maybe good, maybe good, maybe good, or maybe at the end I got it all wrong about the SEC. Georgia's not actually any better than Georgia Tech.
Yeah, well, that's the truth. Did you watch them play each other? 8 overtimes, and Georgia was lucky to get the game even into 1 overtime there.
So then could I not extrapolate that the top of the ACC might in some ways be as good as the top of the SEC because we've been overstating how good the top of the SEC is?
Yeah, you can. That's why one of the reasons I thought SMU deserved to be in the game, and maybe even Miami deserved to be, in the playoff, because I think the SEC was a bunch of pretty good teams. And I don't think the ACC is bad at all at the top. I think those 3, Clemson, Miami, SMU, but then beyond that, Duke, Louisville.
But explain to me what happened here at the end, Pat, with SMU, because what Clemson did was it bailed all the parties out on ESPN, and the SEC has bought a 3-loss Alabama team is going to get in. It bought everyone out when they had to put Clemson and SMU both in. Otherwise, would they have?
No, I don't think so. If Clemson misses the field goal, obviously they're out and Alabama is in. Or if SMU wins the game, if Clemson wins by 14 points, I think they probably have the excuse to put in Alabama and to knock out SMU. So the ACC threaded the needle it had to thread. They needed a close, competitive, good game that Clemson won. So that happened. But look, the setup was there. I'm not saying the fix was in, but the setup was there to get Alabama.
You are saying the fix was in. You're right there. Say the fix was in. You're right. Just say it. These are trying times for Sports Illustrated and the American media. Just say it. You can't be out here. You can't be out here with nuanced takes, Pat.
Well, he can. Him and Wetzel, they can.
Those don't win anymore. Nobody's going to listen to the podcast, College Football Inquirer, with Dan Wetzel and Ross Dellinger if you're out here with the Nuance podcast. That's not how you keep up with the kids, Pat.
Well, that's hey. When we record the podcast, that's when I'll declare that the fix is absolutely in.
Thank you.
All right, now, on your own platform. That's how you do it.
They were so close to fixing the whole thing, and then Clemson got in there, and now SMU. Nobody wants to see SMU play. Everybody wants to believe that what they thought about SMU before the season is what they believe now, which is that SMU is not good enough. I don't understand why we bother playing the games.
Well, that's the point, right? We actually let them play and discover, oh my gosh, preseason rankings are dumb and preconceptions are dumb, and every SEC team is not better than every other team. So that's the beauty of it, you know. And I will say, on that podcast, our podcast, I picked SMU to win the ACC before the season. They didn't quite get it done, but they justified how good they are. Got a bunch of players from the Metroplex. They're well coached. And I say,
that was
watch
a
out.
real "I told you so" you gave us there, Pat.
But he was wrong. Yeah,
wrong.
A real "I told you."
The TV execs were all weeping that they
Wait a minute, but what'd you just do there, Pat? Pat just did. I knew SMU was better, but I didn't know they were that good, and then they were less good than I thought they were going to be, and I got it wrong.
Kind of covered all the bases.
Yeah, all right.
That's how you do it.
All right, no, but that's bullshit. That's total bullshit from Pat Forty. He got it wrong, and he's claiming he got it right when he got it wrong.
I don't know. It sounds kind of smart to me, Dan.
Yes.
What do you make?
I got it almost right.
That's close. That's close enough in today's journalism age. That makes you a truth seeker to get it almost right. What about Nick Saban saying no coach should have any complaints about his circumstances being in or out of the playoffs?
Yep, he made a little bit of a half-hearted defense of Alabama and the SEC, and then ended up came down on that line of, well, you lost too many games. He's right, and I think that, really in his heart of hearts, Kalen DeBoer will say, yeah, he's right, because they got stomped by a mediocre Oklahoma team late in the season. Everybody saw it. I mean, you can't – if you didn't make a 12-team playoff, I'm sorry. I don't feel that sorry for you. It's just not – there weren't – 12 great teams. I would say there were maybe 10, maybe 11.
I don't feel sorry for you.
Are you sorry or not?
Are you sorry?
He's on his game.
I'm sorry, but I don't feel sorry for you. Then
Classic SMU scenario.
Well, which is it, 40? Which is it?
Sorry. Don't feel sorry.
You don't feel sorry, but you're not sorry.
I'm more confused.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm more confused than I was when I started.
He's apologizing for the fact that he does not feel bad for them.
He's not sorry.
He's not
But he's
sorry.
not sorry.
But he's
Here,
sorry
thank
that
you.
he feels that way.
So then why'd
Thank
you
you for the
apologizing?
interpretation.
Why is he apologizing for being sorry if he's not sorry? This liar comes close to being almost right.
What can you tell us about? Because my source Taylor is telling me that Belichick to North Carolina, it seems like it's going to be a done deal. What can you tell us about that story? Belichick to UNC.
It's fascinating. I know that enough other people have dropped out because they don't think they get it, they're going to get it, and Belichick is, or they just think the place is wildly dysfunctional because you do have trustees and boosters that are basically kind of doing their own satellite search outside of the athletic director, Bubba Cunningham. So the fact that we have a lot of coaches dropping out, and Bill Belichick
that can't be his real name.
That's a terrible name for an AD.
That can't be his real name. It's not Bubba Cunningham.
Terrible name for an AD. Great football name.
That's
though.
simply
Bubba Cunningham.
What you're saying there is not true. That's not a real name. You made that up.
It's a real name. The hilarious thing, if you meet him, he's a little kind of like bookish intellectual guy, but his nickname is Bubba. It makes no sense.
Pat, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate the time. You can listen to his podcast, College Football Inquirer, with Dan Wetzel and Ross Dellinger. He really is keeping up the good fight on behalf of journalism.
And don't forget the next episode, Dan. The fix is in.
That's right. We're going to get you better at this, Pat. We've got to get some. Pat, if you do this, I will promise you our listeners will go and download everything you're doing. You have to promise them, though, that you're going to claim publicly, you're going to put down your journalism credentials, and you're just going to claim the fix is in.
Doing it. The fix is in, and the backdrop will be fixed.
All right.
Also.
All right. Excellent. Good. Excellent work. We will have you back on to celebrate your victory.
Yes.
I believe we have talked enough college football. Samson's still furious with us. He's prowling like a very small Shih Tzu around the offices. Can we go to him? Because this is the big story of the day, Stugotz. We have not gotten to football. My God, how fun was it to watch Josh Allen and the Rams? How fun was that game?
Yeah, we have not gotten to the NFL. Shame on us, man.
We haven't gotten to yesterday. The Giants had an interception. I only tell you this because it had been 11 games since they had an interception. I only tell you that because it had never happened before in the history of the sport, where a defense had gone 11 games straight without an interception when people are throwing a football all over the place.
They were due.
Can I tell you a bone I have to pick with the Josh Allen situation? So Josh Allen yesterday had a 3 rushing touchdown game, 3 passing touchdown game, something no one has ever done before. Right? He had, I think, an average over 50 fantasy points for a quarterback. And then you get the stat that comes out and says Josh Allen had the most stats or the most fantasy points by a quarterback since 1950. There was no fantasy anything in 1950. He had the most ever. We're not going back and retroactively giving fantasy points to quarterbacks for games that they had in 1950. That's not a thing.
I mean, you can do that, though, because we have the box score stats. You just go ahead and calculate fantasy points.
Is this just you trying to segue into your listener league because you're dying to talk fantasy?
Oh, I forgot about that. Our listener league, you mean, Dan? We were part of it this week.
I did play.
How'd you do?
I don't know how I did.
You don't know how you did?
No, I didn't check the results.
You got your phone
I
over there
picked
right
the team,
now.
though. I picked the team. I had Kyler Murray. That didn't go well. I had the Eagles defense.
You didn't do well.
I don't know where I finished.
Well, Dan, you can check out our weekly contest. You go to dkng.co/Smirnoff, presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly. Give them your phone or just open up. You know how to open up the app. You can see where it is you go. You go to your contest, then go to recent, and it'll tell you what place you finished in. Dan, I was in 495th place when I was on stage yesterday.
Yeah.
495, and I said, I'm going to need a big push in this 4 o'clock window. I got that push. I finished in 59th, just out of the money, but man, Josh Allen, he's a good football player.
You would want to have him yesterday. You've come around on Josh
Every
Allen?
day.
Okay, so I do want to talk about this Rams game because Mike Ryan loves those half points, and Mike Ryan couldn't shut up yesterday about how much he loved the Rams in that game because I think we can all agree on this. Football's wacky enough, college or pros, but the Rams, they can beat anybody. If they're healthy.
They just did.
No, but because it's not just that they can beat everybody, it's also – oh, wait a minute. I'm just watching a play against Buffalo, and Cooper Kupp is not really open. There are 2 Bills there, and he's got a touchdown, and they're both injured because they've gotten so precise at that Puka Nacua, we're going to use up his body to see if we can spend all of this body on getting him all the Cooper numbers when both of us, or all of us, have watched that team and been like, how are those receivers putting up those kind of numbers, which make us serenade Puka with his song because he was exceptional yesterday.
His name is Cooper, good at running curls, but when his hammy got a tear, he saw Puka standing there, his blade diminished, hostile take over. Nacua hopped into the car, McVay has maybe found a star, and then Matt Stafford threw him 25-2. Oh, there's a brand new kid in town out of BYU. They call him Puka. Puka Nacua. His quarterback is not named Tua.
Lazy.
Yeah, he is Puka. Puka Nacua. Fantasy assassin, it's the time to cash in. Yeah, it's Puka. Don't need the glove.
None of you would be surprised if the Lions or Eagles lost to the Rams. None of you.
I remember what happened week 1 when those 2 teams got together and the Rams were reasonably healthy. That's why I'm going to keep doubling down on this NFC West. There's really good teams in that. We saw San Francisco kind of wake up. They're down to their maybe 4-string running back now, but they're going to get production from that position. It stinks what happened to McCaffrey, but these are good coaches. There's talent there. There's players that have done the winning, and in a 1-game sample against the Detroit Lions, when the Detroit Lions don't have this loss that we all agree they desperately need.
You all agree. I don't agree with that. I am in disagreement.
Loss.
You guys think the Lions need to lose the game. I don't agree.
No, the Lions need a loss.
Yeah.
They desperately need a loss before the playoffs.
Not the Chiefs, though. The Chiefs don't need a loss, right?
No, the Chiefs don't need a loss.
Just the Lions. Just the Lions. They can't go in. They can't go in as a 1-loss team is what you guys are arguing. They cannot go in on a winning streak that makes the expectations that they've won 16 straight or whatever it is.
Yeah, they desperately need a loss, and they really do. And I will tell you, you, as it relates to the Bills and Rams game, that game is on Sean McDermott. I said this during God Bless Football, so I'm telling you right now. He is going to be the reason Josh Allen doesn't win a Super Bowl.
What do you mean you said this on God Bless Football? You're giving us a recycled take here?
It needs to be said. It needs to be said.
Well, it was said over there. It doesn't need to be said over here if you already said it over there.
Well, I said it.
Well, you're going to say that it's on McDermott, but this is what I would ask you. How many coaches in the league have the pedigree and the confidence and the job security to do what it is that McVay did when he's up 38-35 and it's 4th and 3 and he's like, I'm not kicking a field goal here and then losing to Josh Allen running right back down the field. I'm going for it on 4th and 4 because I trust my quarterback. I don't want to be leading by 6. I'm going for it. You tell me all the coaches in the league because I don't have a lot of them. For all this 4th down math that we're now doing, there are only a few, 4 or 5, the Harbaugh and Campbell, guys who I actually trust with, no, I'm going to do this because I trust my offense and I trust my guys every time.
Right.
And I'm not doing field goal football anymore.
Dan, we had the situation yesterday in the Dolphins game. Remember, the Dolphins are marching down the field, and it was 4th down, and say, hey, should they kick it or should they go for a touchdown? And we opened the poll up to the audience, and there was a coward in the back with a ginger beard.
You
who was
gotta
like,
go for one there.
Kick. No, first you said kick the field goal. They went for the touchdown. They got the touchdown. Now they're down 2. You go for 1 or go for 2. Everyone in the crowd says go for 2. There's one coward in the back with a ginger beard who says go for 1.
A lot of time on that clock.
So then this is my favorite part. They go for 2. They get the 2. You know what this coward does? He says he wasn't in.
Look, there was a lot of time left on that clock. You guys were all taking the easy stance. I was doing the difficult decision.
They would have missed overtime by a point.
Yeah.
They could have got the ball back.
It would have cost them the game.
Billy, Sanders missed an extra point, but Sanders, who you hate, and I now associate anytime he misses, I just look for wherever you are in the world.
AFC player, special teams player of the month.
I was just going to say, Sanders has the longest active streak in the league of made field goals. You've got the most consistent kicker in the entire league.
That's because Billy has an eye on him. I mean,
he's feeling the pressure. Things picked up after we offered to help him move out of town. You remember correctly.
If I were writing, tell me something about this here. If I were writing comedy before the season, Stugotz, and I said, you're never going to believe what I'm going to do here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pay a broadcaster $375 million, and he's going to have no experience in being a broadcaster. I'm going to put him on the biggest game because he's a winner guy, and he's a winner, and everybody wants to be around a winner. But I'm going to give him so much power that he's going to buy a portion of the Raiders, and because of that, he's not going to be in the production meetings where he can be as prepared as any of the other announcers who are doing this professionally. And as an added bonus, on a really important game that's a lot of fun late in the season, you know what's going to happen? He's going to lose his voice very early in the broadcast. Would I be writing comedy? Would I be writing how it is that things could go wrong for Tom Brady? How many other announcers have you seen try to slug their way through a game with a voice that they have lost because Tom Brady's voice didn't work correctly yesterday? He fought the entire game, but it was totally distracting, a game that was otherwise really worth watching.
It's really not the voice you're paying for, it's the presence. I mean,
the funny thing is I actually thought it was his best game when he could get the words out. He did seem to. He's finally getting the note of.
He
just
blasted McDermott.
Stop talking before the next play. That's really the only note, and he finally seems to be getting a little better at that.
What McDermott did was egregious, and Brady called him out for it because they had 3 timeouts left, and it was 1st and goal. You do not run a running play there. It all has to be passing plays. You either catch it, touchdown, or you drop it, and no time goes off the clock. He cost his team a chance to win the game, and that's what you can't do as a coach. You cannot cost Josh Allen, who is out there doing the things that he's doing, getting you back into the game, and because of your boneheaded decision at the end of the game, that's the reason Josh doesn't win.
Now, Stugotz, I just want to confirm what you said earlier. You said the Bills will never win a championship as long as Greg McDermott is their coach.
No, Sean.
Same day.
Yeah.
So which did he say? What are you asking him? I mean, you get in
I think
there.
it was a means mistake.
No, that's fine.
It was. I'm saying that Josh Allen will not win a Super Bowl as long as Sean McDermott is his head coach. Yes.
Major penalty, 5 minutes for stumbling.
Well, I didn't stumble. I just got it wrong. I said it kind of smoothly.
Go be with Samson. Samson wants to talk Soto. Go listen to whatever it is.
I want to talk to him.
I'm going to tune in. You know what I'd like to do right now? I'd like you to sit in the penalty box with David Sampson, and I'd like him to give you all of his Soto information that he didn't give us earlier in the show. I don't need you back now. You can just go.
Just really quickly, what you just sentenced me to do, that is the ingredients for humble pie.
Okay, it's
watch out for
I
Taylor.
like it.
It's supposed to be a punishment.
So then does Amin come back and give us all of Samson's thoughts on
No,
Juan
I want to
Soto?
hear. I want to listen in on what it
okay.
is that
Eavesdrop,
Samson has to say to Amin while they sit in the penalty box together. But do you guys not find it funny that Brady lost his voice and fought through the game? And we can talk about all the details in that game. To me, the takeaway as the Bills lose is, holy shit, in the era of Lamar Jackson wins all the MVPs, man, how is it that this guy gets to romp through secondaries looking like more of an athlete than everyone he's playing against, when I know the kind of athlete that Bosa's are and Watts are and Myles Garrett is and the people who are chasing him, and Max Crosby. Like, how is it possible that this guy just gallops through secondaries? He's going to throw for touchdowns, he's going to run for touchdowns, and it's going to hurt to tackle him. Like, nobody's going to want to tackle him.
I've been totally screwed by Boris in this very regard, where you think that he doesn't have the years, but he does, and then you try to get information, but it's collusion, so you can't, and so you're in a position. Amin, are you listening? And then you're hello. I can't get the show to listen. Just 2 minutes you're in here. So then the question is, no, but okay, but just 2 more minutes. If Steve Cohn has information about.
Yeah, I don't really want more information
It's a vendetta,
about money.
I mean.
Well, this is the thing. Hey, help me out here with the tensions around the show and every time David Sampson appears for a week. This is the tension I have, and it really is philosophical. I'm telling you that what he does with John Skipper and what he does daily on Sports Business is fascinating. But I keep getting told at every turn that while we talk about money all the time in sports, and Soto will come and change everything about how we talk about it, that people don't want to talk about stadium deals and collective bargaining agreements, that when we actually get into the weeds of what the business of this is, people don't actually want to know what it means that the Dodgers are deferring $1 billion. $1 billion.
Everything around Citi Field. And that's where the money is. The casino, getting rid of the chop shops. That video we saw earlier in the show of the guy being upset, I think it's just, stay with me. Think about the deal, the return on investment that Steve Cohen's looking at. The team's worth more. It's an absolute deal that makes sense. But getting the
He's so fascinated by the business of this. Do you realize?
It's Boris.
I drove in. I drove with him and
Boring.
Coca, his producer, and they were asking me, what is the easiest day for you? And I'm like, Monday. It's a light lift. We don't have to do anything. And they're like, oh, we don't talk about football at all. Football barely makes our show on Monday. And I'm like, you're doing it all wrong. Everything you're doing is wrong. And he's like, but we're doing business. We're talking business. And the Soto deal broke. And I'm like, you got to talk football. There's one key ingredient in this space. One, just talk football. And he wants to talk about the business of Soto, and he's more qualified to talk about it than just about anybody in the business that's got a microphone.
But it's weird. The show's called Nothing Personal, and
Right,
it
it's
is
totally
tainted
personal,
by a
right.
personal vendetta.
Before you put that in your brain, you don't realize this impacts basketball. All the contracts that are done with players who stink, it's now infecting baseball. But there's a cap in basketball, not in baseball. It's incredible, actually, how cool it is. I think what we should be discussing is baseball ahead of basketball or behind? Because I could argue now it's actually ahead.
So Carolyn Davidson sold the Nike swoosh for $35 to Phil Knight. And what I'm asking you is, how does she feel about that now? Is it a source of pride as she walks around and it's on every shirt?
It's not a source of pride. Like, are you asking if she's thinking about it every single day and it's gnawing at her, kind of like that loss that Spo had? I mean,
is it a Black Mirror episode of how you haunt an artist or graphic designer? You sell their work for $35 or you buy it for $35. You make it ubiquitous, but everywhere you go, you're being reminded and haunted by the terrible business decision that you made. It's an episode. I'd like, if she's still with us, I would like to speak to her about how it is that she experiences selling the Nike swoosh for $35.
Just get a nice little trauma pump from her. Sicko.
Or just fine with it because the artist can say you can't put a price on being a ubiquitous symbol that you
She
created.
made the most identified branding in the world.
And Phil Knight was ahead of everybody on Mike Ryan gets to buy his quarterback in NIL. Like Phil Knight was getting college football cheap 15 years ago when he was making the play calls from the skybox.
I believe she gave them credit for giving her like her first big break. Also, she got 500 shares at the time, and then got like splitting and stuff like that. It ended up being 32,000 shares, which is about $3 million.
And I've confirmed she is indeed still alive.
I'd like to speak to her. Okay. What do you think, Mike Ryan, of Lane Kiffin tweeting, God, if this wasn't look at me, Louie. He was congratulating Georgia on winning the conference, and he's like 57-4 since 2020. Only 4 losses. That's amazing. 3 to Alabama, 1 to Ole Miss. Old Lane Kiffin out there reminding you that in the last 4 years, it's only Alabama and him that have beaten Georgia. But if not for one of those bad officiating calls in an 8 overtime game, we might all be saying that Georgia Tech is just as good as Georgia.
Well, remind him that he lost to 2 teams that lost to Miami and Louisville by a combined 50 points.
Let's check in with Lucy Rodine. She was off-roading at the Big Ten Championship. What did that look and sound like?
When Rose was pepper sprayed last week, a lot of things happened. We laughed, she cried, and something we really didn't talk about enough was not because of Rose getting pepper sprayed, but the events that occurred before. The Big Ten Championship game now looks completely different. Ohio State is not here, Penn State is, and you can tell. Ohio State fans bought up like all the tickets for this game, clearly didn't need them anymore. So everyone's just really happy to be here. They weren't expecting any of this. Tickets are going for like $20. Vibes are odds. Vibes are odds. Did you ever think you'd see Oregon playing in the Big Ten Championship game?
No. I thought it would be in the Rose Bowl.
Did we think we would be here?
We did not.
No, but here we are.
Not a chance.
No, not at all.
What was your reaction when Michigan beat Ohio State?
Static. Ohio State? We don't give a about Ohio State. They're so. Oh my God.
Ohio State choke. Thank you.
Thanks to them over there.
Thanks to them over there.
Yeah. I think it's the first time we've ever rooted for Michigan, ever.
I was doing the happy dance. It was a good way to start the day. Ohio State sucks. I hate Ohio.
I was in a house full of Buckeye fans, and I went nuts, man. It was great. I've got so many friends that are Buckeye fans, and it was speechless. It was like, oh my God, what in the hell just happened?
Were you taunting or were you nice about it?
A little both.
Were you happier about that or the fact that you guys would be in the Big Ten Championship game?
Ohio State lost.
The fact that Ohio State lost. I hate that.
We hate Ohio State.
That's a tough one. I want to say the Ohio State loss because it's a big one.
Very nice bunch here today. Everyone's been incredibly friendly, which is not what we're looking for. It's bad content for everyone to be nice. Now I have a take. The Big Ten needs Big Ten West fans. The vibes here, they're not hitting the way they do when Iowa's here. Who cares about the game? We make tailgate content. I haven't seen anybody throw up yet today. Nebraska, Iowa. We need them here. I love seeing Iowa lose by 40. It's awesome. And we're very good at it. I think if Iowa were here, everyone would be having a good time.
I don't know about that. Don't like Iowa.
Why?
Not a fan of them.
Why?
Just haven't been for years.
Why?
I just don't.
Why?
Are you from Iowa?
Not going to answer that question. We've never done anything wrong. We're very lovely, nice people. Iowa may lose by 45 in this game, but everyone be having a good time. We'd be out in the streets, in the tailgates with the people. These two fan bases, they can't do It smells really bad.
James Franklin's a fraud. He's not good.
I'm a James Franklin fan. I'm a Franklin fan.
He's really good at winning 10 regular season games, and then he'll just lose the games that matter.
James Franklin's going to show the world today that he can win the big game.
You guys boo James Franklin at the game or no?
Of course we did. Yeah.
He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
Franklin, we ride or die with him.
If he wins this game, we love him. If he loses this game, we hate him. He's horrible. It's a love-hate relationship.
Can you just tell me about the sign you brought here today?
Pretty much Ohio State sucks. And the last time that they beat Michigan was pre-COVID. Ryan Day is the greatest acclamation to the Michigan Wolverines of all time. Ohio State, do not fire Ryan Day. Ohio State sucks. They are garbage. The only thing that is fun to do in Ohio is leave. all jokes aside, they've been really nice.
What on that mindset? Pulls up in shorts. What the?
I love Oregon. It's awesome there. It's one of the best states ever. By the way, it's very pretty. Pennsylvania sucks. Also, Penn State sucks. They don't deserve to be here. Everyone thought Ohio State would be here. I wish that they would, so that it would be a good game.
But why are you wearing shorts, though? That's like super valid of them to have brought up.
I mean, it's just not that cold.
Penn State fans out here arguing that middle of Pennsylvania is better to live in than beautiful coastal Oregon.
Who the wants to live in Oregon? Let's be real here.
Who wants to live in Oregon? Lots of people. They're delusional. And no one is moving to central Pennsylvania as a retirement destination.
No one is moving to central Pennsylvania to retire.
The amount of people retiring to northern coastal Oregon to retire, it's not a lot, but it's not zero.
Do you think Oregon belongs in this conference or no?
We're about to prove them wrong tonight. They do not belong here.
Yeah, hey, welcome to the Big Ten. We'll show you the door out.
So there you have it, Dan. Oregon won the Big Ten championship, their first year in the conference. Their first year. Some teams have been there a really, really long time and haven't done that yet. Doesn't seem fair, does it? Doesn't seem fair.
Lucy Rodine, Iowa correspondent.
I got to tell you, Oregon may have won that game, Dan, but that was not Big Ten football.
That's true.
Yeah, it wasn't.
That's you at 45-37.
No, I need 17-7.
Goal line.
Yeah.
3rd and 2 all game. Come on, everybody. Block better than them. What's going on with all these neon colors running up and down the field the way Oregon's been playing football out west? What comes this way? We're all about the snow. You can't come in here this time of year and just gallop all over the field.
Who are these fast kids?
What is happening around here? It's about beef and blocking football. Can you please get for me, because Lucy did a great job again all season. Those are harder to do than you can imagine. It's why more people don't do them. But she failed this week because there wasn't enough pepper spray and there wasn't enough rose. Couldn't stop. This song was stuck in my head all weekend. Couldn't get rid of
it. There was no need for pepper spray to be rained down on me. And I sustained wartime left eye injury. Ohio State sucks drama, you lost, that's the deal. The video clearly shows, with my eye almost blinded, there's Harry and Lucy laughing.
With the spray. Oh, she sounded like a goose who stepped on with heels, yeah. Even though Rose was in June, there's Harry and Lucy laughing.
Even though I wasn't doomed, there's Harry and Lucy laughing.